Okay, now that we talked just a little bit about inequalities, let's do some examples of this, of graphing where they just give you an inequality and they want you to graph it, okay? So, let's look at x squared plus y squared is less than 25, and then another separate problem we'll look at is an x plus 2y is greater than or equal to 5. We're going to look at these two examples. How would I graph the solutions for these inequalities, okay? Well, first what you want to do here is you want to graph where these two things are equal, right? What the boundary line is for this equation. So I want to graph x squared plus y squared. This is equal to 25, okay? That's what I want to sketch on this graph. That's going to be my boundary line, right? Okay, so this is a good review for us. Do we remember what x squared plus y squared equals 25? What does that look like? You may not remember, but when you have an x squared and a y squared in the equation, this is actually a circle. This is centered at 0, 0. And then, if you remember, so circles have centered at 0, 0 have the equation x squared plus y squared is r squared, if you remember that, okay? So this is a circle. What is my radius of this circle? Well, the r squared part of this equation, this is 25. So then what's the radius? Well, we square root both sides, and we get 5, right? The radius needs to be 5. So what does this look like then? I'm just a circle centered at 0, 0, and I go out 5 on each side. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'll be a point there. Maybe I'll switch colors. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'll be another point up here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'll be another point there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There'll be another point here, right? So this will be our circle. Ah. Very clearly a perfect circle if I've ever seen one. Yeah. Okay, so how do I graph this inequality then? Okay. Well, this one is a little weird. Okay, it's not quite very easy to solve this for y so that you can kind of figure out, oh, it needs to be above or below the line. This one's a little strange. So what I would recommend you do as you're trying to figure out what part of this would be shaded, well, it's either going to be the inside of this circle, right, or it's going to be the outside, okay? And how do I tell the difference? Well, I'll just plug in a point to see, okay? So I'll plug in like, I don't know, I'll plug in 0, 0, okay? Because that's on the inside. I can pick any point that I want that's not on the boundary. When I plug in 0 for x, I get 0 squared plus 0 squared is less than 25. 0 squared plus 0 squared, that's just 0, is less than 25. Is that true? Yeah, 0 is smaller than 25. So it does work right there, okay? That is a solution for our inequality. So the inside of the circle is where it must work. Okay, so this would be our solution for this inequality. Okay? That would be our solution there. Now, I should make sure, it can be really easy to forget to do dotted or solid lines. Should the line on this one be dotted or solid? Think about it for a sec. It should be dotted because there's no equal to here. So I should throw in, instead of a solid line, I'll just put in some dotted. And you should erase like little chunks of your line to give it like a dotted appearance. It's a little bit harder for me to do that on here, but so I'm just going to color over it with a different color to make it work. Okay. So that's what our solution would look like here. Dotted line inside of the circle. And I figured out that it was inside just by plugging in a point. Now if I had plugged in a point outside the circle, okay, so I don't know, maybe like at 6, 0 or something, when I plug that in, that won't work. And so I would know it would have to be on the inside of the circle. Okay? So now let's look at an example of doing a problem where I have a line. Okay? So I have x plus 2y. This is greater than or equal to 5. Okay? Well, let's first think about what is, I want to graph, and I'm going to maybe scroll a little bit. I want to graph x plus 2y. I want to graph where does this equal 5, right? That's going to be my boundary line that I'm dealing with. And so to graph this, I want to think about what is this going to look like? Well, there's not an x squared and a y squared in the equation. There's just an x and a y. So what is this going to be? This is going to be a straight line. Okay, it's going to be a straight line. And how I can figure out how to graph it is if I get it in y-intercept form, right? I want it into y equals mx plus b. So let's get the y alone here. So I'm going to subtract my x on both sides. Subtract x on both sides. I get 2y is equal to 5 minus x. Okay. And then to get y alone, I need to get rid of this 2. So I times it by 1/2, or divide by 2 if you prefer. Okay. So I'm just going to divide all of this by 2. So what does that give me? That gives me y. Now you need to be careful here. When you divide this side by 2, you divide the whole thing by 2, not just the 5, right? So you get 5/2 minus 1/2 x. Okay? So we now have it in slope-intercept form. This is my m. M is the thing in front of the x, so it's negative 1/2. And then your b, your y-intercept, that's 5/2. Okay? So we can now graph our line. 5/2, let's see, throw that in the calculator. I think it's like 2.5. So there's 3. So we're up here at 2.5. And then we go rise over run. So we go down 1, over 1, 2. And down 1 over 2, right? So this should look like this. Maybe I'll change colors so that we can see it a little bit better. Okay? So there's our line, right? This is just y equals mx plus b. Okay? Now, let's remind ourselves, do we need a solid or a dotted line for this? Well, there's an equal to, so solid, right? Solid line, okay? And then the equation I'm going to be dealing with here, well, is this guy, this inequality. I just need to figure out, should it be on the top or the bottom, okay? And you could, if you had kept this as an inequality, you could have solved the inequality for y, and then it would be easier to tell whether it would be on top and bottom. But I'm going to just kind of do the same thing that I did over here. I'm just going to plug in a point to see what part works. It's either going to be this part below the line, or it's going to be the part above the line, okay? I just need to figure out which one it is. So let's just plug in, I don't know, a good place maybe to plug in again. Let's do 0, 0. That seems like a pretty nice place. So I'll plug in 0, 0. When I plug in 0, 0, I get 0 plus 2 times 0. This is greater than or equal to 5. So over here I get 0 plus 0 is greater than or equal to 5. Is that true? Is 0 bigger than or equal to 5? No. Okay, I hope you're screaming in your chair at home like, no, that's not true. In fact, you're insulted I would ever say 0 is greater than or equal to 5. So this doesn't work. So then what does that mean? It means it's not down here. It's got to be up there. Okay? So that's where my solution would be, up above this line. Okay? That would be my solutions for this inequality. Okay? So hopefully that gives you a few examples of graphing a single inequality. You can go ahead and try the homework problems I have listed there. And next we're going to go into what happens when you have multiple inequalities going on.